ASPASA's members' code of conduct. Members need to note that discussions at this meeting will be limited to discussions about ASPASA business. Members of the association commit themselves to refrain from any actions which may constitute of being anti-competitive. And members are reminded that everyone attending the meeting must comply with the competition law before and after and during the meetings. So the last meeting that we've had was on the 14th of October 2021, just over a year ago. That's due to bringing on the young professional meeting that's come on board. So based on today's discussion, we have a few external personnel, company profiles from Brighterstet. Marcel will give us an overview of the company. We've got an internal paper from Dustin Craig on mobile plant productive effectiveness. And I will also just take you all in a nutshell through EXA once again for those members that want to become professionals in the areas. So Dustin, maybe let me just put you on the spot. We can start off on your end and you can take us through your presentation. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Theolon. Get it ready. Okay, good morning, everyone.
Morning, Dustin.
Okay, is my slide showing?
All good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'd like to present on mobile plant effectiveness. As we know, with the industry, it's getting busy in some areas, and fixed or static plants aren't able to cope with the demand. So there's always the option of using an additional mobile plant on site to supplement the demand of sales. So first, let's look at what is a mobile crushing plant. A mobile crushing plants are stack-mounted rock crushing machines that are easily movable on and between sites. So these are machines that run on tracks similar to excavators, and they can easily be moved on and around site and between sites if it needs to be moved to other operations. They are widely used in aggregate production and in mining operations. Mobile crushers can replace stationary crushing systems, which reduces the need for hauling and thus cuts operational costs. What it means there is if your quarry pit allows it, you can have your mobile plant set up into the pit itself and not have to haul material from the quarry pit to the operating area. Mobile crusher plants are typically powered by hydraulic systems, where hydraulic pumps are driven and coupled to a diesel engine, which then runs the rest of the units. Okay, so let's look at some of the units that are typically used in the plants or in the process. Oh, sorry, some units are electrically powered, which rely on an external electrical power from a mobile generator. Okay, looking at some of the units that are available, you have at the beginning in your primary production or primary side of the process, a mobile jaw crusher. Popular mobile jaw crushers are generally utilized as primary crushers that reduce the feed, usually blasted size material, to a smaller size for further processing. For aggregate processing, feed sizes averages 600 millimeters and is reduced to a size of a minus 100 millimeter. Okay, usually in front of that, we'll have a mobile cone crusher. Mobile cone crushers are traditionally used as secondary, tertiary, or quaternary crushers. However, if the feed size of the processed material is small enough by nature, then they can operate at the first stage of the crushing process instead of having a primary jaw. Depending on where in the process it is utilized, different liner profiles can be used, that is coarse, medium, fine, or extra fine liners, depending on the specification of the material that is required. Next up, we have an mobile impact crusher, typically known in the market or in the industry as VSI or SHI crushers. Mobile impact crushers are wide-ranging crushers, crushing machines that fall into two distinctive categories according to the crushing technology they use, and that is mobile HSI crushers having a horizontal impact crushing unit, and they are used as primary, secondary, tertiary, or quaternary crushers. And then you get the mobile VSI crushers in turn are equipped with vertical shaft impact crushing unit and are extremely efficient in the last stage of the crushing process, being precisely shaped in products by reducing the flakiness index. Next, we have mobile screening plants. Material is fed by an excavator or wheel loader or a conveyor if it is used in the full train. Depending on the application, a grid, vibrating grid, or rock box can be used in a feed hopper where material is fed into. The lifting conveyor then takes material to a multiple deck screen from which wing conveyors take material to end product piles or back to the crusher when operating in a closed circuit, typically or also known as the recycling or recrushing. Okay, if we're looking at our plant in a process, production throughputs are typically 350 tons per hour to 50 tons per hour, depending on the application and the size of equipment used. For aggregate processing, ideally 150 ton per hour plant will be required, and this throughput gives a good balance between running costs and production. So let's look at a production setup for an aggregate processing operation, and we'll look at 5 aggregate products that will be produced. That will be the 28 millimeter concrete, 20 millimeter concrete, 14 millimeter concrete, 10 millimeter concrete, and lastly a 7.1 millimeter crusher sand. At the beginning of the process, we'll have a jaw crusher, and its application will be primary crushing. The close size setting on the jaw will be set to typically 110 or 100 millimeters. In front of that, we'll have a cone crusher. Application there will be secondary crushing, and your close size setting on the cone, which is your gap, will be 30 millimeters. In front of that, we can have a unit that has a screen and a crusher combined on it. And the crusher that can be used there is a gyratory crusher. The screen that will be used there is a triple deck screen, and the application will be tertiary crushing and screening. The close size setting on the gyratory crusher can be set at 20 millimeters, and your screen media setup on your screens will be as follows. On the top deck will be 32 millimeters, your middle deck 22 millimeters, bottom deck 16 millimeters. And going back to your setup on your 32 millimeter, and everything over a 32 millimeter will be oversized and go back into your gyratory crusher as recycle, and everything passing through there will take out your 28 millimeter. On your middle deck where you've got a 22 millimeter media, that will take out your 20 millimeter product, and your 16 millimeter will take out your 14 millimeter concrete stone product. In front of that, and if your material that you're producing requires shaping, then you can have an impact crusher. There's not much settings on there. It'll just be an impact crusher, and the application will be quaternary crushing, typically used for shaping. And you have different rotors that are used there. Typically in this application, we'll use a 4-pot rotor. And lastly, at the end of the process, you'll have a double deck screen, and the application there will be screening. And on your top deck, you'll have 12 millimeter. And at the top of that, we'll take out your 14 millimeter stone, and the bottom deck will have 8 millimeter, which will take off your 10 millimeter concrete, and everything else passing that there will be your 7.1 millimeter crusher sand. Okay, now we'll look at our production throughputs. Looking at the same 5 products that's being produced in the process. Our 28mm concrete will come out with that setup at 35 tons per hour. Our 20mm concrete will come out at 40 tons per hour. Our 14mm concrete will come out at 20 tons per hour. 10mm concrete at 20 tons per hour, and 7.1 crusher sand at 35 tons per hour. And like I said at the beginning, a 150 ton per hour plant will be suitable for your operation. And if you're looking at your tonnage per shift, you'll get a total tonnage of 945 tons per shift and 20,790 tons per month. And these figures are calculated on a 9-hour shift with 70% productivity over 22 production days per month. Okay, next we will look at our operating costs, and I'm going to look at diesel specifically because it is one of the highest costs whilst running a mobile plant because it is engine driven. One of the highest mobile plant operating costs is diesel. Depending on the size of the engine or the unit, diesel consumption can be as high as 50 liters an hour to as little as 15 liters per hour. So what does this exactly mean in rands? Let's have a look. Our diesel consumption in liters, if you're looking at our jaw crusher, that's in red, it typically uses 30 liters per hour. Our cone crusher uses 25 liters per hour, and our gyratory at 35 liters per hour. Our VSI at 36 liters per hour, and our screening is a bit low at 16 liters per hour there because there is not much high-powered equipment on that apart from the screen itself. This will give you a total average of 142 liters per hour, and converting that to rands, you'll see that the jaw at 750 rands per hour, cone 625 rands per hour, gyratory crusher at 875 rands per hour, VSI at 900 rands per hour, and your screening at 400 rands per hour. This gives you a total average of 3,550 rand per hour. And I think it's at this point where we start asking ourselves whether we do want to go ahead and get a mobile plant or will the cost be too high. So let's look at our other operating costs for the plant. Okay, other operating costs come in at, and there's typically 6 account groups that makes up your expenses. At the highest being our fuels and oils, and that again is your diesel, oils being your lubricating oils, hydraulic oils, engine oils, and other oils being used in the process. And that comes at an average of 750,000 rand per month. Next, we will need material to supply the plant, and that's where your drilling and blasting comes in. For drilling and blasting will come to 353,430 rand per month, and that is based on the 20,790 tons of production per month. Next, we have our maintenance materials at 280,000 rand per month, and that is typically all of your maintenance materials from your nuts and bolts to your screen cloth to liner plates to crusher liners and everything else between that is related to maintenance. Next, we've got load and haul. Excuse me, load and haul at 267,300 rand. And this is based on if your operation or if your plant is set up in the pit, you will need an excavator to feed the plant, a front end loader to remove material, and a dump truck to do your stockpiling. Next, we've got labor. This will be your labor and staff to operate and run the machinery that comes in at 70,000 rand. And lastly, your third-party maintenance services for specialized services or services that cannot be done in-house at 60,000 rand. This giving you a total monthly expense of 1,780,730 rand. And I'm sure by now everyone is dropping their heads and say, are we really going to make profit from running this plant, or is most of our costs be going on maintaining the plant? So let's look at our profitability. Oh, sorry, again, these figures are based on a 9-hour shift with an availability of 70% over 22 production days per month. Okay, let's look at our profitability. And before we go any further, I'd like to state that these are market-related costs and sales and not that of FSM. So at the beginning, we said if we're achieving 70% productivity on a 9-hour shift, then we should produce 20,790 tons per month. And an average selling price, which is market related, at 220 Rand per ton. Our total revenue for the month will be 4,573,800 Rand. And then if you remove our expenses of 1,780,730 Rand, we will get a net income of 2,793,070 Rand, which for me is a good return on the money that is spent and invested into your mobile plant. So let's look at our advantages of running a mobile crushing plant. Mobile crushing plants are easily movable on and between production sites. Setup is easy without the need of foundation work. And continue to run during load shedding or other power outages, since the units are powered by diesel engines. And looking at our load shedding schedule in recent times, this is highly beneficial to an operation. Each unit operates independently and can be combined with different units to operate in different modes instead of using all units at the same time. What this means is that each unit can be set up with another unit, and instead of using all of the units together, you can just use certain units in a train to give you your desired outcome of the products that are required. The transfer of material is more flexible and convenient, allowing you to set up the plants at different angles to reduce the amount of space used. What it means that is that your plants do not have to all be in a straight line. They can be set up at an angle, and it gives you a better working space and reduces the amount of space used on your operation. And lastly, these plants are easy to operate. It's basically, most of them are fully automated, where just a push of a button starts your whole process, and a push of another button will stop your whole process. And setting up the plant is just as easy. Okay, let's look at the disadvantages of running a mobile crushing plant. Extremely high running costs, as we have seen. They are prone to breakdowns due to numerous driving systems, that is engines, hydraulics, and electrical. And with experience, hydraulics is the worst because your entire machine is hydraulically driven. You've got numerous hydraulic pipes, numerous valves, and pumps on a system. So your hydraulics becomes your main Achilles heels in your operation. So these has to be maintained properly. Another disadvantage is that some spares are not available off the shelf and can lead to massive downtime and production losses when a breakdown occurs. And sometimes a small breakdown as simple as a bearing can make you stand for days due to the type of spares not being available off the shelf or aftermarket. The compact design of the plant makes maintenance and repairs difficult to get around. Space is tight on the plant, so it takes a while to get maintenance done because you have to work through the space and work with what is available on the plant. Okay, lastly, it's a harsh working environment. There's no control rooms or operating centers like some of your fixed plants have, so you're out there exposed to the elements, and yeah, that makes it unpleasant at times to work around. In conclusion, mobile crushing plants can be effective in an operation if the following is adhered to. Constant and proper maintenance must be carried out. Critical spares must be available. Breakdowns to be treated with urgency. Reduce spillages and unnecessary production stoppages. Have a motivated team who will ensure production targets are met and the plant is maintained to the best operating standards. Constant plant and process supervision to ensure material of superior quality is produced. And lastly, and I think most importantly, is proper planning and budgeting whilst running this plant. And that brings me to an end, and you feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dustin. So Dustin, our maintenance team leader, in charge of our mobiles. I think we've had quite a run with these mobiles, especially all the equipment, and it's quite fitting to bring that aboard, especially when you look from an industry perspective and where some of the work is going and trying to chase for the class 1 and class 2 products. Yeah, it's really gone well from our end, just having the right knowledge, right backing from an OEM perspective and making these mobiles work. Thanks again, Dustin.
Thanks, Thiola.
Okay. Then I'd like to call under drilling and blasting brighter set. I've got Marcel. He's got the hospital pass for the presentation today. But just to give some background from that perspective in terms of their speciality, Marcel.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you for this platform, Theulen. I think in terms of it being an introduction, I'd just like to put the camera on quickly. It's always nice to put a face to the name, but I see it's not allowing it in this case. Let's just see if it's going to come on. There we go. I don't know if you all can see it, but if you can, I'm Marcel Roux, and I'm presenting Brataset Blasting, the group of companies, in the capacity of General Manager.
Marcel, we can see a black space here.
I saw there's something wrong here that he didn't want to show my face, but I'll have to send you all an invite and a WhatsApp photo one day, man.
I think so.
Yeah, I see it's for some reason not going on. All right, let me get into it. I recently attended a seminar where actually it was really death by presentation. So I'll try and keep it short and to the point in order to rather look at what we want to get out of it instead of what we can talk through it. Maybe Theulen, just give me a heads up to see if you can see that, if it has come through.
That's all good.
Okay.
And that's presentation format. Thanks.
Excellent. All right, so who is Brataset Blasting? We are a KwaZulu-Natal based group of companies, and we offer as a drilling and blasting service for our core business to the mining, quarrying and construction industry. Brataset Blasting was started 39 years ago in 1983 by John H. Brataset, and it basically started as a small handheld drilling and blasting operation. Now, it was then taken over by current directors Clive and Debbie Brataset in 1989, and one can see that we're obviously heading for our 40-year anniversary come next year. During the September 2015, we became 51% Black owned, and we are currently a level 2 broad-based Black economic empowerment contributor. Safety. Our aim is always to conduct our business and activities in the safest manner possible. We commit ourselves along with all our employees without endangering the safety and health of our employees, customers, contractors, visitors, or affecting the environment with which we operate, which is pretty difficult if you're a blasting company because you're supposed to make holes, but yeah, we try our best. So our target customers is usually in the mining, the quarry services, civils and construction. Now, as Dustin pointed out in his slideshow not too long ago, with drilling and blasting being the second highest cost, you obviously want to know what you pay for as a client. As Brataset Blasting, we thrive ourselves in safety, productivity, efficiency, which in turn leads to peace of mind for the customer. Why do clients choose us? Well, we tend to provide solutions for all challenges that come up. Although we're in a drilling and blasting industry, we are always on the lookout how to support the client in a better way for improvement, efficiency, or cost effectiveness. That builds towards trustworthy relationships, reliability, and we're experienced and competent in what we do. Although we've got structures and workflows, we do provide a lot of flexibility, which aids in decision making and fast tracking a lot of options. Transparency, again, with trustworthiness, you need to be transparent. Sometimes the news that you haven't heard might be the worst news. So the sooner you get that out, the better it is for both parties. We believe each and every relationship is a partnership that we encounter with our suppliers and our clients. And through efficient communication, we believe that all challenges become opportunities. We've got three divisions, being the mining, quarries, civils and construction. Our mining division, currently we have got the phosphate mine in Limpopo that we've been operating on since 2020. We are having an anthracite mine. Just something here with the power and load shedding.
Hi, Marcel.
Hi, Thielen, am I back on again?
Yeah, you're on.
Sorry, the power
I
took
just
a
think we
dip
lost
here.
your presentation.
I'm going to quickly get it on again. It's one of Dustin's ideas why mobile crushers don't get affected by load shedding. Huh? All right, sorry for that, ladies and gentlemen. All right, as I said, our mining division, we currently operate on a phosphate mine in Limpopo, where we do the whole drilling and blasting operation since 2020. We further operated on an anthracite mine in KZN since 2009. That was the drilling and blasting. And we also operate 3 limestone mines in the drilling and blasting program as well since respectively 2001, 2011 and 2015. Our quarry division, we are mainly operating in the KZN, Northern Cape and Eastern Cape areas, although we do expand to other areas where we provide a rock and ground service to a number of the commercial quarries throughout KZN, Eastern Cape and Northern Cape. Most of our client relationships has been established long time ago, and having worked in some areas more than 25 years and some of them between the 15 and 20 years time period. We've secured these long-standing relationships by anticipating and planning for our customers' rock and ground needs and executing our services accordingly. We pride ourselves on the service that we offer and believe that we have the capacity to expand, and we welcome opportunities to quote on new quarries. Our civils and construction department, and of that photo there you can see is the most recent one we did, being the Msikaba Bridge for the Sunwell project on the N2 Wild Coast. I've noted a few of the previous projects we've dealt with and some of the clients we've handled. The Msikaba Bridge with Conco, Mexa. We've done platform leveling at the Northfield Business Estate for Fountain Civil Engineering. We've done road upgrades, alignments for the likes of Rondell, Marion Roberts, Aveng, Basil Reed. We've done Ludeke Dam, approach roads to the Mtento Bridge site, and other projects like the Nkantolo Road project. Our equipment and resources, we currently run a fleet of 23 drill rigs, top hammer and DTH that's spread around South Africa. We further to that also operate 5 excavators between the 20 to 50 ton ranges that work with hydraulic rock breakers. We've got our own MMU explosive trucks that we use along with auxiliary equipment to support our functions in the field. We operate about 40 LDV units, and then we also have our own fixed and mobile explosive magazines to be set up anywhere we start operations on a large scale or our existing operations supporting us to ensure not just on stock supply from external suppliers don't affect us, but to ensure our client operations continue even when we see the effects of load shedding or strikes on the road. We always try to establish our own stock on hand. Further to that, I think another point that Dustin mentioned, a part of any plant hire or equipment running, you need a good team that maintains your equipment along with parts. And that's something we pride ourselves on, having in-house maintenance department, as well as our own parts procurement, where we also support a lot of local entities. Our people, obviously the heart of the business. We are currently 185 employees within the broader Seth Group, spread across the 3 different divisions of mining, quarries, and civils. We believe in leadership development, internal career growth, teamwork, learnerships and apprenticeships taking a lot more form, and we also believe having fun in doing all of this. Like any company, we've got a mission statement. For us, the mission statement is not just merely the words on the wall, but we every day try and live according to these guidelines. And for the broader Seth Group, we try to build a company that brings glory to God and provides a good living for all its people, that develops all its people to their full potential by functioning in a financially astute manner, operating efficiently, ensuring a happy workforce, and building a strong management team, all in a safe environment. How do we achieve this? We believe in the core values of competence, open, reliability, and equality. And we aim to achieve it through our strategies where we respect, we have the right people in the right places, we believe in profitable work, a self-disciplined culture, and direction. This was just a short summary of who Brothers Blasting is, and I trust that it could give you an interest into finding out more. And if you are interested in finding out more, you can contact myself, or you can either contact one of the employees that usually runs with our contracts, Sven Bradaseth and Garth Kogel, who's the business development manager. But yeah, make contact with us for any further details, and we'll be glad to support or quote you on your next project.
Thanks very much, Marcel, for that. We invited Marcel and team over. So some of the good work that they're also doing, servicing from a drilling and blasting perspective. Thanks again, Marcel.
Thank you for having us, Dylan.
Thanks, Marcel. So I think on the next part is we usually have Teresa Arting that assists from the EXA point of view. I've just put 1 or 2 slides together just to take some of the engineers on. I can just see my screen at the moment. Yeah, take it we can. So just from EXA's expertise, they're governed by the Profession Act 2000, where the council must register a person that demonstrates the competency against the standards. So as most of us know, we are the professional engineers that come through on different facets, specifically on the electrical, mechanical, civil, the GCC route.
Sorry, Theolan, your screen is black on my side.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes, apologies for that. I do have a problem on my end, but I think let me just run it in this format. So as I said, the engineering profession 2000, council will register persons that demonstrate effective competency against the standards that were set out. So for a lot of the youngsters here that are working towards a professional qualification, it's all governed against the registration policy. So if you go onto the EXA website, you'll pick up RO1 POLPC in terms of the general policy. And this policy is made up of a few areas where we have a qualification standard. I'll quickly take you all through that. The recognition of educational qualifications included in that is your recognition of prior learning, which we call the alternative route. Then we have the application and assessment process. So that is basically the forms or the process in which you complete the documentation for the steps of assessment. Also give guidance in terms of training and mentoring through the different facets or disciplines, as well as laying the competency standard against those disciplines. So electrical engineer on the different facets is not just an electrical engineer. There's certain areas from 11 outcomes that needs to be at a certain standard. We categorize it between A to E, where you participate up to being fully exposed. And then there's a guide to enabling that competency standard if you follow it correctly. And then lastly, the discipline-specific guide training. So all in all, it's supportive of the registration process, but and it's well prepped in terms of aspiring engineers to reach their qualification. Just in a nutshell, there's specifically 3 types of registrations. So Excel would look at the engineer. So if you have a qualification, a BSc, BEng as a minimum, or BEng, or the new MEng qualification. So that is the E23P. Basically, what that is, about 2 years back, that is made up, you come up the BEng Tech route, then you do your BEng Tech honors or postgrad diploma engineering, and then you can walk through your MEng. So it's not your normal masters, it's the new masters with the changes made by the universities. And this will give you a PR-Eng qualification, solving complex problems. On the engineering technologist, you would look at the new advanced diploma engineering, or the old BTech engineering qualification, or the new BEng Tech qualification. You become a technologist and you would be solving broadly defined engineering problems. And lastly, on the engineering technician status, so this would be your old national diploma or a newer diploma engineering technician, or again, your advanced certificate in engineering. And you would be defining well-defined projects, solving well-defined projects. So the process flow with EXA, if I move back, I spoke about RO3 PRO application process. Once you submit your documentation, it's a stringent process through EXA, where there's an administration process and an experience appraisal, which would be looked, or your forms would be looked at. EA process would be looked at least 4 registered professional engineers, and that would be marked on the 11 outcomes. That would thereafter move to moderation. So the 3+ CI is if you get 3 competence indicated, that's what CI means, you would either go up, you would go straight to professional review after moderation. But if you get more than 2 competence not demonstrated, the process will push you back either to an interview so that they can get clarity on your application on specific outcomes from the 11 where you've been marked from the 4 registered persons, or you'd be kept in abeyance, stating that you're not really ready and you need maybe up to a year to get a little more exposure in line with the competency standard. And if you're in abeyance, then the process would start again. However, if you got through to this stage, it's moderated by at least 2 registered persons. And that once they tick that box, you would go for professional review. So professional review is a formal interview, and we would have 3 registered professional engineers, and they would go through all 11 outcomes. So more than 2 of the assessments come through, you would be it would go to moderation, and you would pass the process in line with your attaining your professional registration. If not, you would be declined, and it would be, I mean, the candidates, if they're not happy with it, they can go to the Central Registration Committee, where there is a process for refusal against that, and that's done through Excess Council via the CBE. In a nutshell, registration is only as good as the work that is put in against the competency standard. And as I mentioned to most of the youngsters or aspiring engineers coming through, it's very important to follow the policies put through EXA and attain the relevant exposure in order to attain those qualifications. What's very important from a mentoring and coaching perspective, if you're going for the engineer route, you need to have at least 1 PR-Eng, And it's three professionals, but one needs to be a PR eng, and then the other can make up a certification eng or PR tech eng technologist. You have to have a supervisor, but this is the order of preference. But with all your application, there must be an immediate supervisor that can witness and sign off in terms of your TER reports, training experience reports. So technology is the same, but the PR tech eng must be on there in a PR or PR eng. And yeah, one of them being your direct supervisor, same format, and same with the engineering technician. So a technician, you end up as a PR techni eng, but a sign-off will be needed at one of these categories. And just finally, the outcomes that would be looked at, some of you may be familiar with it. It's grouped into A to E sections. The first outcome is defining, investigating, and analyzing the problem, then designing or developing a solution. A lot of students battle along this if the from discipline specific, the complexity alignment to the competency standard is very important. So if you're going for a PR eng or PR tech eng, you need to be operating at that level, utilizing your BTech eng or your BSc BEng studies to solve problems, whether it's from a design or development point of view. Design, we noticed that not everyone is in a design field to design application. So some time back, EXA changed it to design or develop solutions. So use it from first principle, they develop specific solutions in line with the registration discipline. Then comprehend and applied knowledge, that is the applications utilized from first principles or subjects utilized in order to sort those problems out. So group B is basically from a project management and communication point of view. Group C is from a social, environmental, and cultural point of view, as well as utilizing the relevant laws, bylaws, and as well as your technical laws to solve these problems. So if you was an electrical engineer, you'd use specific parts of SANS, South African National Standards. Also, maybe you use specific mine health and safety standards to apply directly onto your discipline specific competency. Then on Group T, here we're looking at conducting ethical activities. So there's a few questions on that, which needs to be answered, your exposure. And the 9 and 10 is very important, using your sound judgment and being responsible for decision making. And then lastly, your professional development on outcome level. It's looked at to see what, up to that stage, what activities you have been brought up to speed with before your application is moved to the next stage. So all in all, it's a quite robust process, but you end up as a professional engineer, technologist, or technician that can sign off for specific areas in terms of the competency that you would be applying for. Are there any questions from EXA point of view in terms of application? You're also welcome to contact Aniki or the ASPASA office and myself as normal, and we can see where we can assist from a coaching, mentoring point of view to try and get you on track with your application as well. Okay. Then from my side, I'm not sure if there's any new business or what I would like to see going forward in terms of the meetings. Okay, so there's nothing from anyone's end. Okay, on that note, I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us on engineering meeting for the year. We obviously would like to take this in a new format going in the new year, trying to getting new candidates, etc. So we all have a part to play in this. And I'd just like to thank you from my side for joining us today. Also for our speakers, Dustin and Marcel, much appreciated as well.
Welcome.
Thanks,
Okay,
Hewlin.
Thank you, Aniki. Gideon?
Good morning, Hewlin. How are you?
Good on you, Gideon.
No, I'm very good, thanks. Look, I sent you guys a text on the chat, just that you forward us the presentation if possible. I think there's very good insights in that presentation.
Sorry, Gideon, I'm battling to hear you. Which presentation is that? Hi, Gideon.
The one that you just made right now.
My presentation.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. I will submit a copy to Aniki and then she will pass it out to you. Is that fine?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great day further. All the best.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Bye.
Hewlin. Same for you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Yola.